Hang on. Ah, there we are.
Good
There we
evening.
are, Ian. How are you? Look at this wonderful hat. Who sent me this?
That's a fantastic hat,
Yeah,
actually. I should have put mine on. It's freezing here.
It's wonderful. Thank you very much. Anyway, welcome everybody. We're finally here. We're a few minutes late. There was a bit of an issue with the link that we got sent, but we've got a new one. We're all here. Well, me and Ian are here, just the two of us tonight. So a little bit of a shorter show, Ian, I think. And then we'll have some football chat at 8 and we can review last night's Ipswich win. Hopefully you'll join us for that, mate. But if you're new, this is Talking Cricket. We're here covering mainly England. Yeah, not great, but we will get to that in a minute. If you're watching live, please hit the like button, hit subscribe. And if you're watching on catch up, please do the same. Anyway, Ian, are you all good? You've been doing some great bat whispering, haven't you?
Yes, it's a busy period. Obviously, people are well into the swing of indoor nets and getting ready for the new season, etc. So yeah, I'm quite busy with that.
When's your season start? Have you got? When's your first
20th
friendly?
Of April. 20th of April is when the first league games are. I think there's possibilities of friendlies before then as well.
Couple of jumpers required then, probably.
I only need one. I'll be okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the title of the show, thanks to Dan, is Jaisbal routs Bazball in Rajkot. So we will start at the toss, Ian. Obviously, it's probably a crucial toss in India, isn't it? If you win the toss and you get runs on the board. Rohit Sharma won the toss, but then quickly England reduced them to 33 for 3, and it was a great start, wasn't it?
It was, and it was. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get over the disappointment of it all, but it was a good start. But you've got to, it's played over 5 days or 4 days more often than not, and yeah, we could have had a start to build on there, but every credit to the way that India batted. There's some great knocks there, absolutely superb.
Yeah, Mark Wood got a couple of early ones, Tom Hartley, and then look, I'm not saying England would have gone on to win the game, but 47 for 4 if Root catches Rohit. I think he should catch that, Ian, if I'm being honest. But I think it's a little bit. Obviously, we'll come on to Joe. We'll come on to the ramp. We know your. I think I know your thoughts on it, but we'll come on to that in a minute. But I think it's symptomatic of where he's probably at the minute. He's obviously not got the runs. Is it a case of, I see that people are saying now that he's bowling so many overs? Is that having an effect on him? So should catch 8 times out of 10, I'd say.
Yeah, he's got good hands. Listen, in hindsight, yeah, it was a bad drop. I mean, any drop's a bad drop, isn't it? But he is bowling a lot of overs. Is that taking it out of him? The difficult conditions. There's a lot of pressure on him. He's obviously England's best bat. Certainly has been over many years. He's got a lot of runs, got a lot of hundreds, and he's just not playing as well as we know that he can. So, yeah, very disappointing. Did it turn the test? I'm not too sure, but it would have helped.
Yeah, I think like 40 for 4, and then Sarfaraz Khan, obviously making his debut. I call him quite portly, if I'm being honest. But if he's in then, and it's 40 for 4, and it's probably a totally different situation for him than when he came in. I think it was about 240 when Rohit was out for 131. He's come in. I think first class cricket, they said Ranji Trophy, he's averaging 70.
Yeah.
I mean, until he was absolutely stuffed by Jadeja, and he was absolutely stuffed. I thought he was probably going on for a century there. The way he was playing, he just made it look so easy, didn't he?
Yeah. He grasped the opportunity with both hands. He was positive. He obviously can hit the ball. Played with a lot of intent. You could see it in his bones. Obviously, it meant a lot to him. He got absolutely barbecued on that run out. He was a bit unlucky there. He could have gone on to get a big one, but he got runs in the second dig as well, didn't he? So
yeah, he got 62 in the first inning, 68 not out. Obviously, we'll come to the second innings, but I think 4-4-5. Jadeja obviously another 100 for him. He was back in after his injury. I think we were probably quite happy with that because I thought decent wicket. I thought 550 and I thought and then we bowled them out for 4-4-5, and then we come to England's innings, and I know you gave him the big licks before Ben Duckett. I mean, we go on about Bazball, and I think I'm not sure if the team like that term because I know a lot of people don't. I think it's probably just it's the press use it, and we'll get on to Joe Root how he plays. But I think Ben Duckett, the way that he played on that second the third session on the second day, I think he has to play like that because I think we spoke about him in the last pod. The 2 times he was out, he was just prodding, wasn't he? There, and it was a fantastic innings. I mean, we really had him on the run, and of Rowett, you could see when they kept panning to his face on camera, he didn't really know what to do. He was reverse sweeps, slog sweeps, and he got 100, and look, he got 153. But when we go into the third day, I think we were 207 for 2, weren't we?
Yeah,
and we were looking pretty good. But I think, and I think John said before when he was on, it's all about first innings runs in India, and we won the first test from what was it? Was it 190 deficit in? I think we now you're not going to do that all the time.
No,
and it's proved, hasn't it, in these last 2 games when we gave up. I think it was 150 in the second test, and now it was what 126. I think you've got to grasp it when you have the opportunity in India, haven't you? And we didn't. Look, the last 8 wickets we lost for 95. Last 5 wickets went for 20, and it was just. I wouldn't say I was surprised though watching it, if I'm being totally honest.
No, it was a little bit of a disappointment. It's almost. It was a much better wicket, I have to say that. It is almost the kind of defeat that we were almost expecting. Now, that might be because we're kind of, England fans and especially those of us that are, longer in the tooth, it's the expectations can sometimes be a bit more negative, a bit more realistic sometimes. But you're right. If somebody gets 150 out of 3, you would expect to get more than 319. I think the wonderful thing, I think you're right about Ben Duckett, and as you know, he's somebody that I was championing a while back. But the way that he plays, I mean, some of the sweeps and the reverse sweeps, it's almost like a forward defensive shot. It's just part of what he does. The great thing is, and I think Peter Moores at Notts has got to take some credit here, and whether or not the England setup had spoken to him, but it was at the beginning of the last county championship season that they moved him up to be opener. And I think that whether or not there was something going on behind the scenes, but Peter Moores promoted him to opener, and I think that's what got him his place. But his score, he's been getting starts, he's been getting scores. You're right, he's got himself out a few times. He's been frustrated because he hasn't really been done by an absolute jaffer or a world-class catch or a dodgy decision. He'll be frustrated with the method of dismissal. But it was great to see him back like that. But nobody really backed him up, did they?
Yeah, I think they said for the second innings, I know he was run out, but when they opened the bowling, Siraj and Bumrah, we'll speak about him, he's not going to be playing in the 4th test, he's been rested. They went a bit straighter at him with a new ball. And I think that's probably, I don't know, moving forward, maybe that's the way early on, because he loves that cut shot, doesn't he? He's if you give him any width, well, he doesn't leave a ball, does he, Ian? You see the stats, I think it was in the Ashes, he'd left, it was hardly any balls. He likes to feel that bat on ball. But yeah, look, 153, but if you look over the 3 tests so far, we've had really good opening stands, haven't we? And Ollie Pope, he got that magnificent 190. He's got a couple of 20s and 30s after that. But it's the middle order. It's the middle order for me. And there's a comment in the chat there from Mike Baker. Do we drop Johnny Bairstow or do we stick with him? I think it's quite a common theme on this podcast because we've probably been here before, haven't we? I know Johnny, I think he's got 2 more tests and then he reaches 100, and a lot of people will probably think, how's he reached 100? You do have to take his figures under McCullum and Stokes. I think he's averaging in nearly 50. But he's had a really poor trot, hasn't he, out here? He was out. Yeah. I mean, talk to me, Ian, about that review. We've all played cricket and we all know when we're absolutely plumb. And I don't know why you'd review that. I've got no idea.
Well, I was watching it live and I thought, has he actually reviewed that? He's nowhere near it. You know, what was he possibly thinking? I don't think he got any help from the non-striker. You know, it's not as if the non-striker said, "Oh yeah, that's missing." You know, review it. It was absolutely, it was knocking everything dead.
I think he was walking off before it actually came up on the screen, wasn't it? I think he knew that he'd made it. Look, good comment here from Chris Boyd. It's Bazball. You can't have the incredible moments without earth-shattering lows. It's the risk-it-all culture. Sometimes it'll come off. More often it won't. You have to accept it. What do you think to them comments, Ian?
There is a possibility that, you know, the way that they play, and obviously this was the worst runs defeat by England since 1934. I think one of India's
biggest ever win, Ian.
It is India's
biggest ever.
I'm glad you've got some facts, but the you know, you can sort of crash and burn. I think there is a time and place for the positivity, the mindset. You set a 600, we'll chase it down. That's great, but we've got to get some results. I mean, obviously, if India win the next test, you know, it will be. I think it's going to be Stokes, only his first series that he's lost as captain. I know he's not been in the job long. I just think I think there's a time and a place, and I think if you're going to play those sorts of shots, then you need to execute them. You need to execute them better than we sometimes have. Like you say, there was a massive collapse, wasn't there? 95 for 7-8 wickets after Root, you know, played that shot, and it was
right. Let's talk about the Joe Root shot. So obviously we'd started the second day 207 for 2, and then we've made our way to 224 for 2. And Bumrah's probably coming towards the end of his spell there. You know, he's not going to bowl many overs, probably 4, maybe 5. And they did put the stats up in. I was listening on the radio. I was hoping, actually, because I was going to Swansea on Saturday. I was hoping the majority of the way driving to Swansea, I could listen to England bat. That didn't go very well. But I think it was 75 runs for once out playing the ramp. And we all spoke about it last summer. I was at Edgbaston on, I think it was that... fourth day, I think it was the fourth day, when he tried it on Pat Cummins on the first ball of the day, and we all, blimey, what's he doing? So, it's not a great look. I think people should, Jaisbal needs a little bit of credit for the catch, because it's a pretty decent catch there, Ian. He's got it on the second grab, but is it a great time to play that shot? If it goes for 4, we're all lauding it. I know your thoughts on it. Joe Root, personally, he's going to be probably England's greatest batsman. He'll go past Cook quite comfortably, and the form that he's in at the minute, and he's probably got himself in that morning. He's on 18 not out. Does he need to do it at that stage of the game? Because it opens the door. Bairstow goes soon after, and then we've just spoke about what happened there. Yeah, is it all about time and place, or was it just he executed it poorly?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it is time and place. I think he did execute it poorly. He does play that shot and it comes off, and when it comes off, we laud it. But it's about the situation. You know, Joe Root's got thousands of runs and centuries and this, that, and the other. A lot of that time he wasn't playing little ramps and dinks and stuff like that. You know, he probably needs to. We're not going to tell him not to play it, and Ben Stokes isn't going to tell him not to play it.
He's not going to go back in the dressing room
it's when you play it, and it's how you play it.
He's not going back into the dressing room, and Baz is going to say you shouldn't have played that, because we know that it's such a positive sort of mindset and how they play. Look, Mike Baker says there, Bazball is a risk and reward style of cricket, but that should stop players playing. Shouldn't stop players. I think he means playing with common sense, i.e., Root's wicket. Because look, Duckett's. I know Duckett's on 150 or 130 odd then, but you've still got to start your innings that next day. So yeah, and it's a crucial stage. And we just said there, Ian, about first innings runs. We had to get up to as near as we could to their first innings total, and then. We've seen test matches over the years. Third innings, lots of different things can happen, but when you're giving another 126 run lead, and I want to come on to you about Ben Duckett's comments when he came out and he was, I think we've got to be careful here. A little bit of arrogance, basically saying, Jaisbal, he's watched us bat, oh, look what he's not watching you bat. He's a good player, And he's obviously back-to-back. He's got back-to-back double tons, Ian. Is only the third player after Don Bradman. And do you remember Vinod Kamble?
Vaguely.
Left-hander. Played a few tests. I think him and Tendulkar had a massive partnership once when they were youngsters. I think it was something like 700. Yeah. But I think that's a little bit of arrogance there from Duckett. And then to come out as well and say, if we get some early wickets on the fourth day, we could chase 600. Come on.
I mean,
I know there's been positive, but there's also talking a load of nonsense. And when I heard that, I'm thinking, my lad was with me, Ollie, and he's 16. And even he raised his eyebrows because we both thought, we're not going to get 600. We know.
No.
I think they need to be careful. With this style of cricket, we all love it, and it's obviously positive. And we sat on here, Ian, when we started doing this, and we won one test in 17 under Joe Root. We remember the Ashes in the West Indies. But we need to be careful because I know they're trying to entertain everybody, but we're not reinventing the wheel. And it's a little bit of arrogance to say we're like reinventing, we're saving test cricket. Well, we didn't win in New Zealand. We didn't win the Ashes.
No.
We're probably not going to... I'm not saying we're not going to win out here, but we're probably not... And that's for me, and I know they say the result doesn't matter. Ben Stokes doesn't strike me as somebody who doesn't really care about the results, Ian.
No.
They might come out publicly and say, oh, yes, all about... But surely in that dressing room, they've got to have some conversations after that game because nobody likes losing and nobody likes losing that heavily, surely.
No, and the lad that did get the runs, there were times when there was the new ball and Wood was coming in and, where he was defensive, like I say, there's a time and a place. But my concern about the Root shot is that it's a predetermined shot. Now, Bumrah's probably one of the best in the world and he varies it and he does quite a lot with the ball. He varies his pace. Is he the best bowler to be playing that shot against? Like you say, could have seen him off, could have had a look at the,
Interesting. That's really interesting you say that because I think Bumrah's dismissed Root. I think he's up there with Cummins the most time in his career. And I know, look, if you're playing against them quite regularly, they're going to get you out. But is that another thing with the mindset of Joe Root's in? Because he probably knows a little bit that in this series and past series, Bumrah maybe have got his number. So maybe that's why he's trying something different.
Possibly.
But then it's the stage that came in we go back to, and Bumrah's probably coming towards the end of that spell. It's not sensible. It's not sensible cricket. You've got to read the game. And Joe Root knows we don't need to tell Joe Root. He's played enough test matches. He's got enough runs. But yeah, it's time and place, Ian, for me. And that wasn't one of them.
No.
But he'll do it again. He'll do it again, and we'll probably sit on this pod again, and we'll say, "Yeah, that was great. Did you see when Joe Root ramped so and so for 6?" And we'll all laud him then. So it's a little bit of a you've got to weigh it up. But I just think the England team,
isn't it? Yeah,
the team and the comments I think they just need to wind it in a little bit, and we're loving it. We love how they play. We love that they're positive, but you still got to use your brains a little bit, and I don't think we have, because we've had some good positions in these last 2 tests and we haven't capitalised on it. And in India, if you're chasing the game like we just said there a little while ago, Ian, you're not going to come back from them, no matter anybody, no matter how positive the comments are from Duckett or whoever after a day's play. It's not going to happen, is it?
No, and I think, like say, 4:45 in the first innings, and there was that drop catch as you mentioned. You know, if England bat and a couple of them get big tons, and you get 150, 200 ahead, and you know you bowl and field well, it's a totally different game. But I mean, to the way that the Indian lads batted, especially when they were chasing the runs in that second innings, you know, 430 for four declared, I think it was. These are lads who've all, you know, most have played IPL. You know, they know what a positive cricket's about. You know, they can certainly hit the ball. They do play attacking cricket. You know, when it needs to be. So it's not like the two positive, proactive styles, whatever you want to call them, are too far apart. You know, India are a really good side, especially in their own backyard. I don't think they've lost there since 2012. So it was always going to be a tough decision, but decision making and execution, you know, that's key parts of cricket at whatever level. Test cricket, club cricket, you know, in the playground, whatever. And I just think some of the decision making, I'm not too concerned about the positivity. I'm not too concerned about, you know, playing that shot, but it's got to be at the right time, and you've got to play it well. Simple as that.
Look, I think you'll have a lot of people saying, well, we've played in India before, and playing the style under Root and previous captains, it didn't do us a lot of good then. So, but then I'll come back to you've got no Kohli, you've got no Rail, he's out again, Pant's not playing. So this is a weakened India, but then that has given some opportunities for their younger players to come in, and we've seen what they can do. I listening on the radio, I heard a stat, and we were going on about England being positive. I think it's 71 or 72 overs is the average first innings number of overs in that we bat.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So that says to me, when you've got a 41-year-old like James Anderson, who is still magnificent, and Mark Wood, who's obviously not had the greatest injury record, they're not getting a lot of time, are they? To just put their feet up and chill out. So, and I don't think that will change. But I like to talk about the spinners, Hartley and Ray and Ahmed. They've done really well so far. But I think we're finding now, especially the wickets they're playing on out here, because when we were out in India the last time, that was COVID times, wasn't it?
Yes.
And there was some interesting pitches there, and there was like the game when Joe took, was it 5 for 9 he took, and it was over in 2 days. Now, I think the wickets have been really good cricket wickets in, and I think if the wickets were a little bit like they were back in the previous series, it would have probably brought the spinners closer together because you've got a little bit more help. But I think you're finding now, and obviously Ashwin had to go away because he had a family member ill, and then he came back, and I think they're all right, which is good. But he took his 500th wicket. You've got Jadeja, top all-rounder, Kuldeep Yadav, who bowled really well on that second morning.
Right.
They're class bowlers. And I think it's showing now that although Tom Hartley and Ahmed's done well, and I think Bashir, there's talk that he's going to come back in for the test that starts on Friday. We'll have a little bit of chat about that in a while. But it was always a big ask, throwing spinners who are pretty green in to a series like this, and it is a case of sink or swim, and they'll be better coming out of this series. They'll be better for it. They'll have learned a lot, but I think you're probably going to find out in the end that it was probably a little bit too much to ask of them. But then where do we go, really? Because the cupboard's bare, like we said before, isn't it?
It is. We've talked about the spinners. You've got to play games of cricket. You know, Dan Lawrence is out there. He can bowl a bit of tweak, can't he? Will he come in for Bairstow? I don't think he will. I think they'll be loyal, and I think they will stick with Bairstow.
Do you think they should?
He's not played any cricket.
Do you think they should stick with Bairstow?
It's
It's correct what you say there. This is the trouble with touring now, isn't it? The players who are on the sidelines, you can bowl as much in as you want in the net, Ian, but you haven't played.
I think you're right. I think the second part of that answer is the fact that where people are failing, there's no such thing as failure under Bazball, is there? So how do they view the way that Bairstow has batted? Because like you say, they've got this no failure sort of culture. Somebody goes out and plays an outlandish shot and gets out. And
is he a little bit like that, Johnny?
Go and do it again, but do it better. And I get that. And that's part of it.
Is he a little bit like that, Ian? As in feast or famine, I'd say with Johnny. We see in the Ashes he wasn't doing a lot, and then he loves. I think sometimes when he gets a bit of Johnny, I think is the type of player. A lot of them say, "Oh, we don't read the media." I think Johnny's the type of player who probably does read everything, and I think sometimes he likes to prove people wrong, doesn't he? I'm not saying this test he's going to get 100, but I think it's probably the correct decision, if I'm being honest, to stick with him.
Johnny Bairstow, on his day, you would back him to get 100 more than you would Dan Lawrence at this current moment in time. I think, he's been an absolutely class player, and he's definitely in the Bazball mode. That's for certain. And there's been peaks and troughs in his career. We've spoken about him before, having the gloves. I think we're doing the right thing by having folks with the gloves, especially on some of these wickets and especially against turn. Lots of people like Adam Gilchrist saying he's the best keeper in the world. So I think we're doing the right thing there. Obviously, Brooks going home probably helped make that decision a little bit easier. The folks,
yeah, definitely.
Thing. I think they will stick with him, and I really hope he does well. I hope he needs a score. It's just one of those situations. He needs to get some runs.
Yeah. He's not the only one. He's not the only one, because you can come on to Ben, folks, and I know he has kept really well, Ian. He has kept really well, and I think it would have been an interesting one if Harry Brook had been available, and they possibly might have gone to Bairstow, but I think it was that helped make that decision, and I think he's vindicated that with the gloves. With the bat, though, he's not really performed, and I think he plays the next two tests. I'm pretty sure of that, but the summer comes, and I'm not sure about moving forward with folks. I'm not saying they don't rate him, McCullum, Stokes, and Key, but we've seen before in the summer they didn't select him. They went with Johnny. So it wouldn't surprise me if we're visiting this again in the summer. Folks has been left out, and they might go down a different route with the keeper. They might do. They might go down. I think with Bairstow, just coming back to Johnny quickly, I think he plays these next two tests, and then it's obviously he's played 100. But I think there might be a decision to make with him also in the summer, and you've got to look forward to. I think it's when the Ashes. I don't think is the Ashes next, not the winter next coming. It's the one after that. I think.
Yes, I believe it is.
But you've got to look. I know we said on here before we can't just look at the Ashes, but is Johnny Bairstow going to be part of that team going forward to Australia? I don't think he is, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think it's sooner you're going to have to make that decision, and there'll probably be. Well, Brook will come back in. Maybe a new keeper comes in, like your man Josh Bohannon. Sooner or later, you've got to try and re-energise your team. But they are quite loyal. I get that under Ben and McCullum, and people will say about Johnny, he's part of their mates. I don't think that's anything to do with it. He's had a very good career, but if you look at his figures, I think he averages about 30-70 in Johnny Bairstow, which is decent, but it could have been better, but he's had a good career. So, right, we'll come on. I've just got some quickly here. I'll read about Ben Stokes about the wicket for the first test, which starts Friday morning. Right, this is Stephen Schemmel on the BBC Cricket. England captain Ben Stokes says he has never seen anything like the pitch for the fourth test. This could be interesting, couldn't it? The surface in Ranchi has cracks running down one side, just outside the off stump of the right-handers at one end, and the left-handers off stump at the other. So Ben says, I've never seen something like that before. I've got no idea, so I don't know what could happen. If you looked down one side of opposite ends, it just looks different to what I'm used to seeing, especially out in India. It looked green and grassy up in the changing rooms. But when you go out there, it looked different. Very dark and crumbly and quite a few cracks in it. Right. Ben Stokes, he's been bowling, Ian.
Yes,
he's been bowling. So this, and we spoke about this before, we've obviously missed Ben with the ball. He needs 3 wickets to get to 6,000 test runs and 200 wickets. So he's been bowling 100% in the nets. It's crucial, isn't it, if we can get Stokes back to an all-rounder, especially on this wicket, because it looks as though we're probably going to go back to 3 spinners, and I think Robinson's going to come in with his blonde hair. He's going to get a gig first time since the 3rd test of the Ashes. If Ben can bowl, brilliant.
Absolutely. It's great that he's fit. I was reading somewhere that it might have been Ollie Pope was saying that he was bowling, full on in the nets. He wasn't just, going through the motions and what have you. It would be great. I think he'd said that he wouldn't bowl on this trip.
He said he had a pinky promise. He said pinky promise with the team. But we all know Ben. We all know the type of character that he is. So this doesn't surprise me in that he's chomping at the bit. They said he'd bowled 100%. Then he'd had a word with a doctor. Obviously, they're guiding him where to go. So I don't expect him to bowl a great number of overs. But I think, and where we spoke about Joe Root earlier, if Stokes can bowl, that takes the pressure off Joe with the ball, I think, a little bit. And you can bowl him, but you're not going to have to be bowling him the number of overs that he's been bowling in the first 3 tests. So this is big news. If we can get Ben Stokes back to somewhere firing, and then this is another thing. Then, if going forward into the summer, then you've got your all-rounder. Then look, this is another thing where I think Ben. But this is where I think this might not help Ben Folkes. He might. They might pick another. But Dan Lawrence he's a really interesting one. And surely he's the next cab off the rank that somewhere along the line he's going to not just be carrying drinks.
They shipped him out there, didn't they? And I think we spoke before, because obviously we've got the Lions in India, but it's not the Lions in where were they playing? Abu Dhabi, was it? Wherever they were playing, it might have been India actually. They it's not necessarily the second 11, the Lions. It's more of a development squad. So I think that's why they brought Dan in. They're going to bring him in. They might as well use him. But we've seen it before, haven't we? A lot of drinks carriers. Good old Matt Parkinson.
I knew you were going to mention him.
He did his stint with the. It was brilliant with the tray.
What a stint! He must have been good pouring them drinks. Yeah, just mixed up just correctly. He didn't get a lot of cricket, did he? He didn't get a lot of cricket for England. He just played that test where was he the concussion sub?
Yes.
That was his only appearance, wasn't it, Matt Parkinson for England?
And then I would say Lancashire have gone with Hartley, and now I think I'm amazed that Hartley's there, but he's doing tremendously well. I think as Mike says there in the chat, it does change the dynamic of the team if Ben Stokes can bowl, because you don't have to pack it with seamers, and it gives you the option of a spinner, and it does give you some flexibility around the keeper. I think just going back to what you were saying about keepers, I think somebody like James Rue at Somerset is
because he was out there with the A team. He was there, playing.
He seems to be, if we're looking at
whatever happened to James Bracey, Ian. What happened to James Bracey? He come in, didn't he? He had a shocker. Yeah,
he did. I mean, I think he's a very good player as well, and it didn't work out for him, unfortunately. But that's not to say he won't come back, because there are players like Ben Duckett who've given it a go. It didn't quite work out, and look at what he's doing. So, there needs to be the thing you were saying about loyalty. There does need to be a carrot dangled for these county players that could possibly get into the test side, because if you're just going to pick people on loyalty and what they've done in the past, I'm not saying that that's what they're doing with Bairstow, But you do have to, as you rightly say, you've got to move on at some stage, and you've got to look at the future. And you've got to give these county players, something to aim for, and give them the opportunity, and so they can, the standard is raised, and everybody's thinking, yeah, I can get in.
I think if you get in now, it's not like the old days. You're going to get quite a fair run at it, because I think now the way they go in from the outside, like publicly, we're probably thinking about like Bairstow. Like now, Johnny, no, he's not getting any runs. They'll give him probably 2, 3, 4 more tests than other people would think. Look, we don't know what goes on, but we'll see what happens moving forward. Just getting back quickly to this test. Obviously, England 1-2-2 all out, second innings, 39.4 overs. Didn't surprise me in. It did not surprise me. I think they probably fancied a day on the golf course on the Friday. Jadeja got 5. Mark Wood we got 122 because he got 33 down the bottom of the innings. But I think it was the writing was on the wall when India 430 for 4. Did you see when they were walking off? Jaisbal and Khan before he declared, and he waved them back out, didn't he, Rohit?
Yes, that was comical.
But that 214 not out. He's equalled the record number of 6s in an innings. Jaisbal hit 12, obviously at Jimmy for 3 on the bounce. He's a bit of a problem, isn't he, going forward?
Sensational. What isn't sensational is the fact that we talk about 122 and the game's gone and all this, that, and the other. It's Test cricket, and I think I'm not saying they should just stand there all day and block it, but I think they should show, and I've said this before, a little bit more spine and a little bit more desire to not lose a game. I'm not saying that they gave up. I'm not saying that India weren't on top, and in terms of numbers and the way that they were bowling and this kind of thing, but it was a bit of a capitulation that
Did it surprise you? Did it surprise you on Sunday morning that we got rolled over? Because it didn't me.
Well, it gave me more time to do stuff, but it was it was no. Well, it did and it didn't. It didn't surprise me actually, and it was. I have to say, it was disappointing. I mean, Hartley walked past one, didn't he, as well, which is disappointing because I think he's been batting okay.
Can we quickly talk about Crawley's LBW? And Ben's had a word with a match referee about DRS. I think we have. Look, it's not why we've lost. We've been well and truly beaten, but I think we have been on the end of a couple of marginal ones. I think it was Ollie Pope on day 2, the LBW. Off Bumrah. I thought that one. I can't see how it's 3 reds. And Ben's on about getting rid of umpire's call, isn't he?
Call. I think. Listen, that's how he's reacted to that. He's going to back his players, isn't he? That's what they do. Like you say, there's a bit of loyalty there. It was a tight one, but I think the umpire's call and DRS in general has been great for the game.
Good, excellent.
I think 99% of the time, I think it's been really good. You only got to look at VAR in football and how badly that is considered by all and sundry. But I think DRS, listen. It was a bit of a tight one, but at the end of the day, that decision's got to be respected.
But it can go both ways, and when it goes England's way, we're happy, aren't we? If there's one just nicking the stumps. Yeah. We've not got a great... I'm not sure what the numbers are, but we've not got... The reviews we've had out in India have been... There was two. There was 2 on the first day, Ian, that Rohit Sharma would have been out, and he'd have been LBW, hit him on the glove, and then... Jadeja's one, I think. Was it Tom Hartley bowling? Yeah, LBW pushed forward, turned.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have made hundreds, and they got them wrong. So look, it is what it is.
And the breaks in it. Well, you're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. It's not why we lost.
No,
there's a load of different factors, and it was a great test match. That's not we're looking at it from an England perspective, but there was some absolutely brilliant Test cricket there. I think the series has been tremendous. It's disappointing that England didn't make more of a fist of it in the last Test. Understatement. But they've been great Test matches, and I for one can't wait for the next Test.
Yeah, look, we've been in all of the games. We've come out the last two Tests on the wrong side, but I think that probably the main reason they're in, like we spoke before, is the first innings runs. It's vital. I think. Obviously, we just them thoughts on Ben about the wicket. I think it's vital that we win the toss on Friday morning, because obviously whoever wins the toss is going to bat. Right. And it doesn't sound that the wicket's going to get any better. So that's crucial. No. If we could win the toss and get some runs on the board and put some pressure on India, because we've been well in this series. We're probably going to come out on the wrong side of it, if I'm being honest, which we probably all thought of at the start. It was very, very tough going out there. Shorter show than normal tonight because there's only the two of us. Before we close, Mike Proctor passed away. God rest his soul. 77. A little bit before my time. My main, I've seen a lot of footage on YouTube. My main memories of him, I had a VHS video. I can't remember it was even when I was younger. It was when he was bowling. I think it was probably the B&H Cup. He got 4 in 5. 4 in 5. Greenwich was playing for Hampshire. He was bowling round the wicket with his off the wrong foot. Massive in swingers. I've got some quick.
Very chest on.
Yeah, I've got some quick figures here. First class career, 1,417 wickets, nearly 22,000 runs. List A career, over 6,500 runs, 344 wickets. They used to call them Proctorshire, Gloucester. So he played in the game. He played in the Gillette Cup one when they played Lancs. He was playing, I believe, when it ended at the 9 o'clock finish.
Yeah. It is very sad, and he had a charity as well. So I remember talking on TMS about getting youngsters into. It was mainly based in South Africa, getting into youngsters into cricket who were from underprivileged backgrounds. So, but that was quite a few years ago. I was on TMS, but that stuck with me. Obviously, only played 7 tests because of the apartheid situation in South Africa. Wonderful player, rated as one of the best, and I think Mike Brearley rated him as a really good captain as well. And Proctor rated Brearley, so maybe they were good mates, I think. But really sad. Complications, heart attack, wasn't it? From it was heart op and complications from that. Or we had a lad that played with us quite a few years ago. He sadly passed away from heart problems, only 50. So pretty grim when I read that. But and he was quite sharp. He was quite sharp as well.
But he was manager of South Africa when they came back into Test cricket. He was, the dirt in the pocket game, Mike Atherton at Lords when they won. Famously put the South African flag over the balcony when they beat us.
Oh, that's right.
I think he was a match referee as well. So, look, great career, great cricketer, really sad. Before we close, Ian, any other business?
No, there's nothing from me. As I say, it'd be interested to see who England pick, whether they're going to go Robinson or Bashir, or there was even bringing Atkinson in for Wood, but we're assuming that Jimmy's going to be rested. But will it make a difference? We'll know on Friday.
Wait and see. We'll wake up Friday morning, set your alarms. Fingers crossed, we can win the toss. Come on, Ben, we can do it. Get some runs on the board, and I think this could be an interesting game, Ian, with the comments on the wicket. But we will wait and find out. We'll be back next week, hopefully with better news. But thanks for watching. Thanks for Ian. Thanks for the hat, and we will see you next week. You make me